In 1912, a woman tested a law most people thought was madness. Not with science, not with sweat, with thought. She manifested $20,000 in cash, the equivalent of $500,000 today. It wasn't luck, it wasn't chance. She used a special passport stamped not by borders, but by belief. A passport which teleports you to a new reality. A place where money, freedom, and opportunity flow like water. Sounds impossible? Her story is the proof that manifestation is possible for anyone. This is the story of Genevieve Behrend, the woman who made thought into money. Yet only months earlier, she was broke, alone, with no path forward. A widow, her husband gone too soon. No family, no fortune, no future. And in 1912, being a widow meant vanishing. No income, no status, just a quiet slide into invisibility. But Genevieve wasn't built for invisibility. She was on a spiritual quest, like you most likely are. Reading, seeking meaning. She searched far and wide. In Christian Science, traveling, chasing light in darkness. But every path led outward. No one taught her how to go in. And inside was where the silence screamed loudest.
If there's a law that governs the universe, I must find it, or I'll vanish under the weight of what I've lost.
Fate drew her to Abdu'l-Baha, a resemblance of Abdullah the mystic who later guided Neville Goddard. He was no ordinary teacher, but the son of a prophet, exiled, revered, a voice of peace in a fractured world. To Genevieve, adrift and desperate, his words were fire. Keep seeking. The truth will meet you halfway. And something in her shifted. The confusion didn't lift, but now it had a compass. Days later, in a dusty little bookshop tucked between two buildings in Manhattan, she wandered aimlessly. She had no title in mind, no author, just a strange kind of pull. In the back corner, buried beneath forgotten volumes, something caught her eye, growing, but oddly untouched. A slim book, its gold-embossed lettering faded with time. She picked it up. Lectures on Mental Science by Judge Thomas Troward. The first sentence hit her like thunder.
My mind is a center of divine operation. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression, the production of something entirely new, not included in the past, but growing from it. In my world, of which I am the center, new conditions must unfold, always advancing beyond what came before.
Each word felt like prophecy, not a wish, a law, not philosophy, a formula. In that moment, she didn't just read the truth, she recognized it. Using the principles from those books, the ones you will soon discover, she went on to manifest over $20,000 in cold, hard cash, equivalent to over $500,000 in today's age. Imagine that. A widow, alone, $500,000, formed by focus, delivered by law, enough to escape poverty, enough to silence despair and buy back her freedom, enough to step into a destiny that would change not only her life, but countless lives to come. The question is, how did she do it? In this story, you won't just hear what happened. You will discover the exact method Genevieve used, step by step, and how you can apply it to create wealth and power that lasts. Before we reveal the method, you need to understand the scale of the dream it produced, because Genevieve's dream was audacious, even dangerous to the ordinary person. Her friends called her delusional. Her family laughed in her face. Her dream? To become the only personal student of the legendary Thomas Troward. The legendary mind whose ideas armed Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy, and gave birth to the New Thought movement. The man whose book, Lectures in Mental Science, she found in the bookshop. Why? Because his words had shattered the silence of her grief. Every line lit a fire. Every phrase felt aimed at her soul. This wasn't admiration. It was recognition. She read late into the night. The words weren't spiritual fluff. They were precise, sharp, final. Troward didn't promise miracles. He explained mechanics.
Thought is the mold. Form is the result. Spirit is the creative force behind all things. What you impress on mind becomes experience.
He wrote that your mind isn't a receiver. It's an initiator, a center from which divine intelligence unfolds.
The law is always creative. It cannot help itself. It must act. You do not create by wishing. You create by becoming. What you consistently believe becomes the pattern life must follow.
To Genevieve, it was like discovering fire in a world of smoke. This wasn't religion. This was creation. The idea struck Genevieve like lightning. The outer world was not fixed. It was plastic, malleable, shaped by the impressions of her own mind. Because for the first time, she didn't feel powerless. She felt dangerous. She didn't want to study with Troward. She had to. It wasn't education. It was salvation. But there was a problem for Genevieve. Troward lived in England, a world away from New York. And Genevieve? She had nothing. No money, no support, no way forward, only a dream. She ran the numbers. She needed $20,000, enough to cross the ocean, enough to reach the only teacher whose words had awakened her soul. To her, $20,000 was a mountain of gold. Her friends said it was impossible, but Genevieve didn't flinch. To her, this wasn't fantasy. It was a test. Genevieve remembered Troward's words.
My mind is a center of divine operation. Desire will in due time externalize itself as concrete fact.
If that was true, then lack was a lie. Circumstance had no power. She wouldn't hope. She would prove it. She began a daily ritual. She called it her mental picture. Every morning and every night, she sat in silence, not to wish, not to plead, but to impress a vision upon her mind. She would repeat,
My mind is a center of divine operation, and divine operation means expansion into something better than has gone before.
She didn't see poverty. She didn't see empty pockets or closed doors. She saw herself counting crisp banknotes. She imagined buying her steamer ticket, walking the deck, and arriving in England. She saw herself being welcomed as Troward's pupil. And she felt it. Not someday, but now. The joy, the confidence, the certainty. To reinforce the vision, she wrote it out again and again, committing it to paper and mind. Later, she explained,
If you can conscientiously continue to make a picture of your heart's desire and consciously feel that you are now receiving it, it will surely come to you.
She called this her mental picture, a living passport that would stamp her into a new reality. She didn't chase signs or calculate how it might happen. She simply held the picture and trusted the law would move on her behalf.
We can gradually grow into any condition we desire, provided we first make ourselves in habitual mental attitude the person who corresponds to those conditions.
Weeks passed. Genevieve kept to her practice with quiet devotion. Every morning and every night, she returned to the picture. The banknotes, the steamer ticket, the crossing, the arrival. There were no signs, no sudden windfalls, just her, the vision, and unwavering trust. How many of you would have given up by now? When your friends and family think you are crazy? Days blurred. Doubt whispered. Was it foolish? Was it madness? But still, she returned to the picture. Not because she needed proof, but because she was the proof. Then, one conversation, one chance remark. A thread she tugged without thinking, and the whole thing unraveled, not into chaos, but into clarity. A conversation here. A door opened there. A name mentioned in passing. A stranger offering help for no clear reason. She followed each thread like it had been laid out for her. Not because she knew the outcome, but because she trusted the pattern. And then, the money came. $20,000. The exact amount she had pictured now real, now hers, not through chance, not from someone she begged, but through what she called natural but unexpected channels. She later wrote,
"One circumstance simply led to another, in a way I could never have outlined."
She didn't manifest it by force. She didn't chase it. She became the version of herself who already had it, and reality adjusted accordingly. The law had answered. The money was real, but the money wasn't the miracle. It was the invitation. And this is when her story really begins. Within days, Genevieve was on a ship to England, passport in hand, destiny in motion. The ship cut through the Atlantic. Genevieve stood at the rail, wind in her coat, eyes steady. Every wave felt familiar. Every gust of wind, expected. She had traveled this path 100 times in her mind. Not hoping, not wondering, just arriving into a world she had already created. Genevieve's story is not a fairy tale. It's a blueprint. She proved that reality bends when imagination becomes conviction. When she stepped onto English soil, there was no hesitation, no awe, only certainty. She was exactly where she was meant to be. And the law that brought her here was just beginning. But the door she had longed to open still waited. Behind it, the man who had rewritten her fate. She arrived at the street in London with nothing but a suitcase and certainty. It was a quiet street. Ivy climbed the stone walls. She stood before the door, the one she had pictured so many times. And for the first time, she hesitated. She raised her hand, knocked. Footsteps. The door opened, and there he was. Tall, lean, penetrating eyes. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He simply looked at her, like he was measuring something deeper than words. Genevieve didn't flinch. The silence stretched. Was this the end of her dream, or the beginning? He nodded once, slowly, then stepped aside. And just like that, the door opened, not just to a house, but to the next chapter of her becoming. She would become the only personal student Thomas Troward ever accepted. Not before, not after, just her. He saw something in her, not potential, but readiness. The law had already chosen her. He simply confirmed it. Inside, the air was heavy with silence. Books lined the walls, papers stacked in deliberate order. This was not the chamber of a dreamer, but of a judge who treated thought as law. Every day, Genevieve sat across from Thomas Troward. His words were few, deliberate, but each one struck like a hammer shaping destiny.
Spirit is life. Thought is the energy of spirit. Form is the result. Your mind is creative, always. You cannot think without producing form on some level. We are always using this law, whether knowingly or unknowingly. The law of the universe is thought taking form, and it will always take the form you persistently hold in mind. Principle is not limited by precedent. The creative process is always moving into something greater than before.
Do you see it now? This is the same law shaping your life right now, whether you know it or not. Then the line that thundered through her being. What you impress upon the mind must be expressed in the world. Truth after truth, sentence after sentence, not philosophy law. And Genevieve felt it. She wasn't just hearing words, she was hearing the very forces that had carried her here, the principles she had already proved with $20,000. They didn't soothe her, they dismantled her. Each sentence cracked something open.
You are the initiator of form. Reality does not happen to you. It happens through you.
The teachings didn't comfort her losses. They exposed them as echoes of beliefs she didn't even know she held. And in their place, a new structure began to form. Day after day, she absorbed them until she stopped seeing herself as a widow chasing a dream. She began to see herself as Troward saw her, a living demonstration of the law of mind. After 2 years of study, her time in England came to an end. But her work was only beginning. She returned to America not empty-handed, but armed with a law she had tested and proven. The world had no idea what was coming. She was his only student, and when he passed in 1916, there was no one else. The torch was hers whether she wanted it or not. She began to teach. In New York, she founded the School of the Builders, not a school, but a revolution in thought. Crowds gathered. Some came out of curiosity. Others came in crisis. All left changed. She didn't teach in parables nor mysticism. She taught in principle, in law, in tested practice.
Everyone visualizes whether he knows it or not. Visualizing is the great secret of success.
She spoke that, and every listener felt it like a door opening.
In visualizing or making a mental picture, you are not endeavoring to change the laws of nature. You are fulfilling them.
This wasn't wish fulfillment. It was alignment with something eternal.
Nothing can prevent your picture from coming into concrete form except the power which gave it birth yourself.
Step by step, word by word, picture by picture, because she made them see. The law works. The power lives. The miracle is practical. But her reach didn't stop with the classroom. She couldn't be everywhere, but her words could. So she wrote, Your Invisible Power, a slim book, but heavy with conviction. A guide, not to theory, but to transformation. How to see, how to feel, how to impress the picture so clearly on your mind that the world has no choice but to reflect it. She wrote,
In visualizing or making a mental picture, you are not endeavoring to change the laws of nature. You are fulfilling them. The power within you which enables you to form a thought picture is the starting point of all there is. Your ability at all times to use the unfailing power which is yours depends upon your recognition of its presence.
She didn't teach that you were separate from power. She taught that you were the instrument of it. Her next book, Attaining Your Desires. Not a sequel, an evolution. And together, they didn't just speak, they ignited.
My Father is the ruler of all the world and is expressing his directing power through me. Ask, believing you have already received, and you shall receive. Remember always that nature, from her clearly visible surface to her most arcane depths, is one vast storehouse of light and good, entirely devoted to your individual use.
Her words didn't fade. They moved like fire across decades. In New York, her School of the Builders became a sanctuary of transformation. Not sermons, not wishful thinking, but applied law. For over a decade, she taught thousands, men and women, seekers and skeptics, how to visualize with precision, feel with power, and receive without apology. Then she took the fire west, opening another school in Los Angeles. Her voice crackled through early radio broadcasts, reaching living rooms and hearts across the nation. Her books became more than pages. They became portals. And without Genevieve, Troward's teachings might have vanished into history. But through her, they reached Neville, they reached Murphy, they reached Shin. She became the bridge, not between books and readers, but between divine law and the lives brave enough to claim it. Through the Great Depression, through war and upheaval, her voice never wavered. As decades passed, her schools faded, but her words only grew louder, passed from hand to hand, quoted in notebooks, scribbled into margins, whispered before job interviews, repeated in hospital beds. Her words weren't trapped in time, they transcended it. And long after Genevieve was gone, her invisible power remained. And now the question passes to you. What picture are you holding? Not someday, not if things go right, but now. Because Genevieve didn't wait for signs, she became the sign. She didn't wish for a new life. She assumed it until reality had no choice but to follow. So what reality are you assuming? What vision will you impress on the mind that shapes your world? Don't just think it, write it, Drop this in the comments. The mental picture I choose is, or I am the version of myself who, then finish the sentence. Don't play small. Don't wait for proof. Be the proof. Right now, take a moment. Close your eyes. See your dream already yours. And if you're ready to stamp your own passport to a new reality, subscribe now, because this channel is where imagination becomes law.